My name is Bob Krinsky, and I was born in New York City, mostly raised in New Jersey. Went to school in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University, and during the later part of the Vietnam War traveled out here to Seattle with a friend who was going to med school, and wound up transferring to the university, graduated from there, and then graduated law school from University of Puget Sound, which is now Seattle University Law School, in 1975. So I've been a practicing lawyer for 40 years, and also have a guitar manufacturing business called the Vashon Guitar Company, and do for passion and love. I'm a musician, have been since I was playing in the Catskill Mountains back then, and a songwriter, and I have 3 CDs out, and I've been involved in the recording industry for many years. I recorded Diane Shore's first album, which she's gone on to some Grammys, and I've had the privilege of being involved with a lot of talented people. And came to the country fair, a little interesting story. Richard Arujo, our booth rep, who was here 3 or 4 years before I was able to attend the fair in 1976, was a witness in the first jury trial I ever had. And after the trial, I won, but after the trial he said, "You got to come to this event." What was in his mind, I don't know, but I've been here ever since, so this is my 40th country fair. And my wife's name is Delilah, she's a jeweler. We have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son in the middle. They have each been to one more country fair than they have birthdays. So my daughter, who's 33, this is her 34th fair, and it's become a family tradition. And needless to say, it's a very important part of our life. And some people refer to it as Hippie New Year, but it's a time when we gather with people we love the most to share the lifestyle we love the most and live at home, although navigating on both sides of the river, you know, a true peace and love person in a rather conflicted occupation. But I've had the privilege of helping a lot of our brothers and sisters out. It's been an honor. So the elder status came as a natural result of being here. And we never miss, and nobody in my family's ever missed a year. And I'll take that back. I did miss 1 year. It was kind of humorous. I sent Rich Hart down with 300 gallons of organic apple cider. This was before there were too many rules and regs. But some close family member at the time passed away, and so I missed that one fair. I think it was the 3rd year I was to be here. Well, obviously the positive yes, yes, yes tone of the fair also was commensurate with my lifestyle at the time. You know, my hair was down to my shoulders, as many of us was, and I was just venturing into a profession that I had no thought of becoming a lawyer. I came here for draft counseling that I couldn't find in 1971 in Seattle, and couldn't really find good help. And I had already been drafted in the first draft lottery, so my choices were Canada or jail, and I hadn't decided which it would be. I couldn't get conscientious objector status despite a death allergy to bees. They weren't buying that medical issue. I would have been happily to serve, but not in Vietnam. And so I was confronted with that, and then by some dint of spirit, was reclassified that winter after I moved out here, and was set free from that decision. It was just some bureaucratic regulation. There were no active call-ups or something, and I was reclassified to 1H, don't call us, we'll call you. So I wound up in Seattle and liked it very much, and more or less stumbled into law school as an accident. I think it was my girlfriend at the time who said I couldn't do that, it would be very unhippie. And being the personality I am, of course, went ahead and did it. Was not a very pleasant experience, but didn't expect I'd be a practicing trial lawyer after 40 years of doing it. And the rest, it seems like a series of happy accidents, including my arrival here through the grace of Rich Hart, who, by the way, we lost this last week. He's gone to the other side. He's driving his motorcycle, doing something he loved to do. So we're here with a sort of a bittersweet feeling. He'll be missed. He was quite a character and well known to the fair for his antics. One of the great stories is, I believe it was a Friday night, maybe 10 years ago, when suddenly in front of our booth, which is at main stage, appeared Rich Hart in a Winnebago with beer. How he got through here is a mystery to this day, but he could navigate his way through the fair. He was confronted by about a dozen security people to whom he said, "Help us unload the beer or we're going to tell on you." So it's been one adventure after another. You know, if you told that outside the fair, it would sound like a hippie drove an RV down a dirt road, so what? But in the fair context, it's pretty cool. My first fair, that's what you asked me, my impressions of the first fair. The fair then was about the fair now, in my opinion. Obviously a little smaller. The property was being rented at the time. As I recall, it was about $25,000 a year for the 4 days in the prep time. And I think it was around 83 maybe that the fair was able to acquire the property. And Richard and I and a fellow named Bob Koch, who's sold Primo pipes that he makes, and is now the oldest tenured artist at the Pike Place Market in Seattle, chipped in for a charter membership, which of course in OCF terms buys you nothing but the privilege of having contributed a few bucks to buy the land. The first fair was like every fair. It was just total magic, indescribable to those who haven't attended, and compelling to come back. As you can see, Mickey, we have a really nice booth space, and the evolution of that booth, I was telling Richard's son Raymond, who's here with us now for some years, is really kind of cute because, you know, if you considered this Park Avenue real estate, you know, in fair terms, on each side of us we have information, which of course is the beautiful eagle, and on the other side the orca booth, which has always been beautifully done. Well, we would arrive here every year to this dilapidated, you know, attempt at a booth, and the fair would encourage us to replace it. Eventually the Long Tom River took it, and we had to rebuild, and there's still remnants of the cutout facade we did up there. And I think maybe 5 years ago we did it for real, the 3 stories with all the doweled wood, and really done beautiful craftsmanship. So we've recognized what a privilege it is to be here at all, much less in this glorious spot that we've been allowed to enjoy these years. You know, the fair has always been a bit of a bureaucracy to navigate. It's everybody, I think, would agree that once you're here, it was worth it. But getting here, it's at times difficult for some people. So the almighty camping pass, we have limited numbers that we're given, and then we try to have a new crafter every year. It's now called the weight share list, I think. We try to have somebody new come every year or so, and keep the booth as a family space, family tradition first and foremost. And of course, around these parts we're a little famous for our music. The changes in the fair, obviously it's larger, but the look of the fair and the feel of the fair is the same. It's always been an intimate group of thousands of your best friends, and that hasn't changed at all. I think what has changed is watching the societal changes. There were times that I recall the fair felt threatened and had security looking for skinheads and things like that on the perimeter where we felt attacked. There were times where we've literally been threatened with forfeiture by the Lane County Prosecutor's Office. So there's always those issues. And one of our longtime fair goers, a fellow named Bob Koch, no longer attended because pipes were outlawed, smoking pipes. And so this is his, as for many fairgoers, it's his economy. And so he was not able to come. He may come back now, though. We hope so. But looking at those changes, it seemed to me a few years ago that there was kind of a corporate mentality invading the executive branch of the country fair. There was a lot of talk about renting the fair and opening it up to outside events, which I strenuously disagree with. I think once you let the enemy at the gate, you're in trouble and you lose control of the sacred place. And I think it takes something like Fair Family to respect this place, leave it as we came. And now, as unseemly as it appears to me to be arguing about the placement of a totem pole, that's how much people care. So I have no voice in that particular argument, but the fact that it's being hotly debated is important. So that changed. There was, what I was alluding to is there was this sort of corporate mentality I felt invading the fair that would use it for more exploitative purposes. And I think that maybe isn't the case now. I think that idea was overcome, and I'm very grateful for that. I'd like to thank everybody who does the work here, the real work, because I read the Fair Family News and I know how much goes into it. So we who come to hopefully pay our expenses, make a little money, and party in the fair spirit know how much it's appreciated, what everybody does. An interesting little anecdote. We used to, of course, like many boos, would hide out some of the younger people who'd come from Vashon. You know, we're outsiders from another planet, but in fact, it came about where I'd call down and say, we need some extra passes, you know, we're from Vashon. And one day the voice on the other phone said, gee, Bob, don't you know everybody's from Vashon now? So, where was I going with that? This is, I would call it the most accurate microdot, the most accurate depiction of the 60s culture that grew probably a little bit pre-Woodstock. I attended Woodstock with my former fairgoer, Bob Koch, and of course that affected us in a way that never left us. And the fair is the same way. And while I think it's very important to encourage the younger generations to have a way to express themselves, it's very important also that Woodstock spirit be maintained. You know, it's a peace and love culture, first and foremost. And I'm telling you, I may call them nouveau hippies. I may not like the DJ music as well as they do, but as long as the fair evolves in a way that our generations have a chance to express their artistic focus without losing the spirit, that's my vision for the fair, to not lose what it began as. And I pray that's so, because I hope my children will still be attending here. I'm seeing, I'm trying to count generations. One big change is that when I first came to the fair, there were very few children. And now we've seen Richard hold all of my infant children on his arm, and our children's children, and now our children's children's children. And that's a blessing, because what comes out of here, I think people carry all year and spread this word of positivity in a world that God knows needs it. End of story. One of the kids we used to hang out, Tony Clementi, became an assistant fair manager, and he left to pursue another occupation. You know, whatever the politics of the fair are, it's too deep for me. But he left to pursue a career in Alaska. And I think it's indicative of the fair that somebody from a little island who we were hiding in the booth when he was 15 years old could raise through the love of this fair to become a part of its management. And so many of the people I've introduced to the fair, everybody wants to stay forever. So, with that in mind, you know, my daughters are coming. One is here, one is on the way. And, you know, our children are not us, and they're different from us. And they've got to experience our values, which I think are very basic in terms of how the human race wants to be. And I consider them an evolutionary leap from where we are, at least I hope so. And it's interesting because the fact that one of my daughters is a business executive for an internet marketing company. She's a retail expert and, you know, makes more money than her papa now. But the fact that she's coming here to be at the Oregon Country Fair is reflective of how ingrained and valuable the fair is. It's not just a wild party on Saturday night, but that's a lot. You know, Saturday night at the fair is an enduring experience every year. It's always the same and always magnificent. But they carry, I know that my children carry this spirit out with them, whatever their particular lifestyle is, and it's you know, it's the best virus ever created, the Oregon Country Fair. And if we could spread this word around, you know, the feeling of exclusivity is it's counterintuitive to my personality. I believe in the politics of inclusion. And the hippies, by the way, can be some of the most chauvinistic people when it comes to trying to point out their speciality. But in sharing this with regular folks and and introducing people who want to be a part of this, I think the proof is, looking around me now, that the children's children look a lot like we did in the 60s, and they mean it. I'm not so sure about the dab and all that, you know, it's a little beyond our kin, but who are we to say? We invented free speech. So I just want to thank the fair for giving my family the greatest gift that we could have as a family, which is this experience. Thank you.